Greetings, everybody, and welcome to example number 5 in our series on cardinal numbers and set applications. So what we have in this problem is that a survey was done, and in this survey we really have 3 different types of music that students are asked about. They are asked about classical music, they are asked about jazz, and they are asked about rock. And we're given information about the cardinalities of each of those sets. And then we are asked to find the cardinality of a particular subset of that group. And so what we do in this case is really similar to the previous problem, but we are now constructing the Venn diagram ourselves. And so what we have is, to begin with, let's draw a Venn diagram with 3 circles. And then we have our universal set on the outside. So the sets that we have in this case, we have the types of music the students listen to. We have classical, C. We have jazz, that we'll label as J. And then we've got rock, that we will label with R. And so now we're just kind of looking at the information that we are given in terms of this problem. So what we have, we know that we have a total of 83 college students in the survey. And of those, we know that 35 listened to rock. So what that tells us, 35 listening to rock. Rock is R. And so it's telling us that the cardinality of R is going to be 35. Then we're also told that 40 of the students listen to classical. So the first one, we have 40 students listening to classical. So the cardinality of C is going to be 40. And finally, we know that we've got a cardinality of 34 listening to jazz. So the cardinality of J is going to be 34. So then we're told that 16 of the students listen to rock and jazz. So that's telling us that the intersection of rock and jazz, so the cardinality of the intersection of rock and jazz, R and J, is going to be 16 students. We're told that 22 of them listen to rock and classical. So the cardinality of rock and classical is going to be 22. And then finally, we're told that 20 students listen to classical and jazz. So classical and jazz constitute 20 of our students. Then we're kind of getting down to the last 3. We know that 11 students listen to all 3 music styles. So that gives us R intersect C intersect J. So the ones who listen to all 3 of them, we have 11 of those. Now, and just like the previous problem, we're going to kind of start off with the most restrictive one, so the set that corresponds to maybe just one particular region, and then build out from there. Well, just like before, our most restrictive region was the region where we had the intersection of all 3. And so R intersect C intersect J just corresponds to the overlap of all 3 circles, and the interlap of all 3 circles corresponds to this region here. And so for that, we know we have a total of 11 people in that particular region. So now kind of moving out from there, we know that the overlap between R and C, so our overlap between R and C is going to be 22. Well, we've gotten 11 of them accounted for already. So we've got 11 here. We've got a total of 22, which means that the other 11 have to stay in this particular region here. Now, kind of doing the same thing, if we look at the overlap of J and R, so the overlap of J and R is corresponding to these two regions here. Well, for J and R, we know that we have 16. We know that we've got 16 of those values. Well, we've already accounted for 11 in there. So if we've got a total of 16, we've accounted for 11. That means we have 5 left over in this region. And finally, if we look at the overlap that we have between classical and jazz, then we know that we have 20 students that are living in this region here. So the overlap between C and J. Well, just like before, we've accounted for 11 of them. We know we've got a total of 20. We've accounted for 11, which means that the remaining 9 have to be here in this region. Well, from here now we're kind of able to kind of extend that a little bit further if we look at the number of students in the set of jazz listeners. So in jazz listeners, we have 34 total, and what we have accounted for in that 34 is 9 of them, 11 of them, and 5 of them, and then the remaining that we want to know. So what this is going to give us is we have 34 total, and 9 and 11 gives us 20, and plus 5 gives us 25, and the remaining that we have left. And so if we subtract 25 from each side, what that tells us is that our number of remaining students, 34 minus 25, I've got 9 of them that are not accounted for. And so what that tells me is out here in this region, I really have 9 students left over. Well, let's do the same thing now for the classicals. Okay, so what happens in this case? We know that we have a total of 40, but who we have accounted for so far, we have 9 of them, 11 of them, 11 more, and the remaining question mark that are out here in this circle. And so kind of giving us that equation again, what do we have? 40 is going to be equal to 9 plus 11, so that's 20, plus another 11 more gives us 31. And then how many do we have left in the outside circle? Well, again, subtracting 31 from both sides, we see that we have 9 students left in that outside circle. And so for this, we have 9 students. Now, let's do rock. For rock, we have a total of 35, but we have accounted for 11, 11, 5, and then the unknown amount that are out here in this region. So what happens? Again, we just add things up. So we've got 35 and 11, 11 gives me 22, 22 and 5 gives me 27, plus my unknown amount. Well, subtracting 27 onto both sides, what do I see is that my remaining amount, I have 8 people. And so in this outside region, I have 8 people remaining. And so now how many people do I have only in my survey? So in the survey itself, I'm told that I have a total of 83 college students. Well, of those 83 college students, how many have I accounted for? Well, I have 9 plus 9 plus 9 from the 3 regions across the top. There are 3 regions in the middle. I have 11 plus 11 plus 5, and then I have another plus 8 left over on the bottom, and then plus the number outside that do not listen to classical, jazz, or rock. And so that makes up our remaining amount. And so what this gives us, again, is another equation. So I believe this gives us 83 is equal to 62 plus the unknown amount. Well, again, subtracting 62 from both sides. What we then have is the amount remaining in the very outside of all three circles gives us 21 students. And so out here in this outside region, we have 21 students. And so with all of our regions labeled now, we're able to find the cardinality of every possible subset contained in this particular question. And so which one are they actually asking for? So what we want is the number which listen to only rock. And so the set of values that constitute only rock is really this region here. So everything that's inside rock but outside of everything else. And so for that region, what's our answer? We have a total of 8 people in that region. So I hope that this problem has been informative. I hope that it's been understandable, and I will see you guys in the next problem. Take care.